to my channel. My name is Lisa Alastuey, and on this channel, you will find a variety of inspirational and informational videos. So if that sounds good to you and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. My guest today is Tim Burr, who is the founder of Return to Dirt, which is an adaptive motorsports program service of High Fives Foundation that puts disabled individuals behind the wheel of their own adventure. I will link his website down below for your reference. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. It's so nice to meet you.
You as well.
Awesome, awesome. So can we start with just maybe you sharing a little bit about you and a little bit about your personal story that happened as far as your accident that happened?
Sure, yeah. So in 2014, in November, me and another friend went to do some backcountry skiing outside of Crested Butte, Colorado. Nothing really special about the day. It was just like we were trying to get out in the early season snow because skiing was one of my main passions back in the day. And we went to do that, hiked up this meadow that had some sweet snow in it. It was a beautiful day. And I went to ski down it and came off this little feature and crashed, just like a pretty typical ski crash, nothing really special about it. But something happened when I tipped over in the snow and I ended up breaking my neck at the C5 vertebrae and was immediately paralyzed from my chest down. And so then that started the second story of my life, basically, and changed a lot, but then also just opened a bunch of opportunities also in some new aspects of life.
Okay. And so this happened to you at what age?
I was 19.
You were 19 years old. And I'm very sorry that that happened. Can I take you back to that moment? Did you know that you were paralyzed like immediately?
No, definitely not. I actually thought that by some crazy chance I had been in an avalanche because I was face down in the snow and I couldn't get up. And I was like real confused about what was going on. And I was just laying in the snow, not really understanding what was going on. And my friend that was with me, came and uncovered me and sort of got me in a position. And then we started trying to figure out what was going on. And we honestly didn't have, barely any experience with spinal cord injury or any sort of paralysis. So it was obvious that, I couldn't stand up and I couldn't get my skis back on or do anything like that, but not super obvious what exactly had happened. And we didn't really know what to do to diagnose what had happened. We just knew that I was having a ton of pain in my neck and now my legs don't work. So it's an emergency situation. And from then on out, it was just survival basically.
Yes. Yes. So would you categorize it as a freak accident?
Yeah. I mean, freak as far as there's a saying that me and some of my other wheelchair friends say that is we earned our wheelchairs 100 times before we got them. So very freak accident in the sense that I had crashed much harder many more times in my life previous to that. Mm-hmm. And that one was just the one that took me down for real. It's not something that you really expect or consider. But it does, it does happen. There's plenty of people, in skiing and all other extreme sports that have dealt with a really similar situation to me.
Mm-hmm. So how did you handle that at the age of 19?
Well, I mean, you kind of don't have a choice other than to just handle it, right away. It was trying to survive, like I said, and just deal with getting past the initial shock and the injury itself and surgery and all of that business. But then I would say that having a really strong family and strong community backing was everything for me. I mean, people were behind me immediately. I had all kinds of support right away, and I didn't really have a choice other than to just handle it and keep on trying to get through it.
Yeah, yeah. So what was the like surgery and rehab like for you in the beginning of all that?
So they gave me an immediate emergency surgery at the hospital that they flew me into. They life flighted me in a helicopter to St. Mary's Hospital in Grand Junction, Colorado, and they essentially like removed my fifth vertebrae and then put a like stabilization piece of metal basically in between my 4, 5, and 6 vertebrae, the C. So like I have this scar right there on my throat from where they went in and did that, and that basically was to try and ease the pressure that on the spinal cord, because the way that uh, paralysis comes from spinal cord injury is if the bones in your neck, like in your spine, actually cause trauma to the the spinal cord that runs down the inside of them. And so that's why you've heard of people that have broken their necks but necessarily weren't paralyzed. Or you can break your back and not be paralyzed, but you could also be paralyzed if you injure your spine. And that is all just about whether or not it damages the nerves inside the spinal column. So anyway, they ease that pressure to try and let any sort of healing happen that could, and then stabilize my neck. That was the immediate surgery, and then after that, my time in the ICU was just mostly focused on breathing correctly because I'm such a high level injury. My diaphragm is partially paralyzed, so um, those early days, it was like a question of whether or not I was going to be able to breathe on my own without like additional oxygen. And so that was like my first test. And then also had to get through pneumonia because I aspirated on the snow. And I was hypothermic when they pulled me out. So like there was all manner of like immediate concerns to get through. Once I got through those, they shipped me off to Craig Hospital in Denver, um, which is a spinal cord and traumatic brain injury specific hospital. And that's where like the more daily type rehab started, where I was expected to uh, show up to appointments basically 8 to 5 that were everything from like physical therapy, occupational therapy, like mental health meetings, home adaptation meetings, like everything. They're there to try and teach you how to live this new life.
Mhm.
And I spent like 2+ months at Craig Hospital just learning all of that stuff. And then once I was done there and graduated, I shipped back home to the parents' house in Glenwood Springs.
Okay. And so what is the prognosis? Is there any hope that you could walk in the future?
Um, Not without significant changes in uh like if they come up with a cure for spinal cord injury, then yeah, sure, I guess nothing's impossible. But typically this is not an injury that you have a full recovery from. um you have to think of the spinal cord cells are nerve cells, kind of the way um, that people refer to like killing brain cells, like you never get those back or whatever. It's
Mhm.
kind of the same deal with your spinal cord. If you damage these cells, they don't regenerate the same way that like a skin or a muscle cell does.
Mhm.
So there is like recovery that happens post injury, but uh, it's not expected that it will, you'll ever fully recover. So Yeah, I would say that there isn't an expectation to walk again, but there's still progress to be made.
Definitely. Hopefully in the future, there'll be more research funding for these types of things and better technology so that, you know, at least there'll be some kind of device or something that might enable you to be upright and to have the movement.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there are things like uh, there's currently exoskeletons and things like that that are used for therapy, and it's conceivable that in the future, instead of having a wheelchair as a mobility aid, you have some sort of robot or something like that. I
Right,
mean,
right.
there's all kinds of ways that the tech could go. It just depends on who figures it out and funds it ultimately.
Most definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that story. I hope who's ever watching this, definitely gets inspiration from your story today, because you took a very challenging situation at a very young age to be faced with, and you made it into something positive, and you created an organization called Return to Dirt. Can you talk a little bit about the impetus of that and how it came about?
Yeah. So it does go back to um, Craig Hospital and my rehab through there. Eventually, sort of a roundabout way, but one of the last things that you do at Craig Hospital when you're getting ready to leave is figure out how you're gonna leave, like what your transportation is gonna look like, because you can imagine that like getting in and out of a car is tough unless it's specifically adapted for somebody that's in a wheelchair. So when you leave, they teach you how to figure out transportation, and then sort of introduce you to the potential of adapted driving eventually. And so I went back to Craig maybe 6 months or a year after getting out originally, and did some driving lessons, and then got my like prescription for what adaptive equipment I need to do so. And then with their help, I put together a vehicle, and I had a Toyota Tundra that had an adaptive seat that would make it so I could get in and out of it. And then it had a crane that put the wheelchair in the back, and then a hand control system so I can control the gas and brake, and then the steering all with my hands. I got that because that is a way for me to drive and get around. And really quickly, the driving became an adaptive activity that was freeing for me. I was blessed to experience and try a whole bunch of different adaptive activities post injury because of people like the High Fives Foundation. That like I tried adaptive surfing, adaptive mountain biking, adaptive fly fishing, sit skiing, all these different things. They're all really cool. Enjoy them. And there's been some amazing experiences come from those, but I was still sort of limited by my level of disability, like, or my level of paralysis, I guess I should say, um, doing all of those things, just because like I don't even have full arm strength. So like uh, participating in those things, I was just still limited. And then once I started driving, I sort of recognized that like this is so mechanical that I am actually unlimited. And so it became an activity for me where I would like take my truck and just go and check out different areas of the backcountry and explore the nature around Colorado using this vehicle. And the more often I started doing it and the more fun it was, I was like, this isn't a super responsible thing to be doing in my one vehicle that I have that gets me around day to day. Also, I have a lot of friends that would probably want to do this with me, and in the disabled community, I mean, like my friends that are also in chairs or have mobility impairments or whatever, seems like something that might be worth sharing with them as well. And then my relationship with people like the High Fives Foundation and some of the other programs that offer adaptive sports, like the people at Ski Mountains that offer adaptive skiing, and then Access Unlimited that offers adaptive fly fishing in Montana. I knew it was possible. I had seen all these things. I've even, participated in many of their programs, and thought that if we could figure out how to share adaptive driving as an experience to others, then we might be able to make something of it. So we started Return to Dirt in 2018, and me and my family and a handful of friends that helped me with my initial injury and return to the adaptive dirt, started raising money and figuring out how to adapt UTVs, because they have proved to be the most versatile and easily adapted vehicle. And now we basically use them as off-road wheelchairs for people. And we organize trips specifically for individuals. And then we participate in camps as well with, many different people with different disability levels, and get out in the backcountry, and we accomplish a whole lot of different goals and dreams for people through that activity.
That is amazing. Can I stop you right there and ask you about the significance of the name Return to Dirt? Because I conjure up multiple meanings of what that could mean, but what does it mean to you, and why did you choose Return to Dirt?
Interesting. I think it just came to me and a friend when we were driving on the highway talking about how we wanted to do this, and thinking, like, what do we call this thing? I don't remember if there was a real specific like aha moment with it. We might have just thrown out a whole bunch of names and said that one feels right. But the truth is that like the equipment is going to be used to get into the dirt. And for a lot of people, this is the only way that they would ever be able to return to that. If you aren't lucky enough to be able to put together like a full-size pickup like I did, and use that as your off-road vehicle, that's also your daily driver. Most people that are using adapted equipment or adaptive cars anyway, or like are driving with hand controls, have to use something that's more efficient, like easier to get in and out of, like a wheelchair van with a ramp or a lift in it, or like a sedan that's easy to get in and out of also, and you can bring your chair in and out. And those vehicles are not conducive to explore.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Yeah, because when I heard the name Return to Dirt, I obviously thought about it from kind of like the healing aspect of nature. Get off the concrete, get out of the cities, and get into the healing area and environment of nature. I also saw it as a, connecting to source, because we all are going to end up in the dirt one way or another. So it's just kind of like connecting to that again. So I thought it had like multiple meanings, and I thought it's a really good name that you came up for your foundation. So let's talk about kind of how it works. What is the application, the eligibility, and all the different criteria?
Yeah, so we put out an application once a year. We'll open it up, people apply. It gives us an idea of who this person is, what their physicality is, and then really we try and get to know this person through their application, to the point that we can decide if what their goals and dreams are something that we can give them, especially like I said, if we're putting together a trip for this specific individual and they say that their goal is to show their significant other what it's like to, get to 10,000 feet or check out the wildflowers in June on the top of this mountain that they used to ride their bike to or something like that. And we know the area and we know, the what it takes to make this happen, and then we have the time and the schedule and we have the resources, then we're gonna grant that person that trip and blow their minds. And so for some people that's what it is. For other people, they are looking for the throttle therapy aspect of it, and they come from an extreme sport, or they come from dirt biking or skiing or whatever, and they want to go for the activity of driving, and then they say that they want to do this type of terrain, and then we'll put together a trip for that person in this terrain, and we're expecting them to want to test the limits of the vehicle, which is each trip is completely specific to that person, and it might go many different directions depending on what their interests are.
Oh, fantastic. So I read online that you started it in 2018 and then it was all volunteer based. So how does your organization run? Is it still all volunteer based? How is it funded? Are you looking for donations and things like that?
Absolutely. So we're for sure looking for donations, and we've grown now. So we started in 2018 and we were a solo nonprofit. And then this past May, we were integrated within the High Fives Foundation, which is a super big promotion for us because we had been partnering with the High Fives Foundation for, since the very beginning. They had been supporting us and kind of just like guiding us through the process of being a young nonprofit. And then this year they agreed to absorb our program. So we're a program service underneath the High Fives Foundation now. And they are just a mighty foundation that has a team that's unrivaled as far as like being able to fundraise and being able to put on, impressive events and camps. So on that front, we've grown significantly, and that's given us a lot of opportunity for new partners and sponsors, but then also grown our network so that we can keep finding new donors and keep our old donors impressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading online about the High Fives Foundation. Very impressive. And Roy Tuscany, he's the founder of all of that, I believe. Mm-hmm. And can you tell the audience what he shared with you when you first met him, when you had your accident?
Which specific story?
Oh, I just read online that he said that it will never be the same, but it will be awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of his tags, no doubt. That, I mean, Roy specifically and his foundation have, touched the lives of 400 plus High Five specific athletes now. And that's only what they have on record. It's much more than that, but that's his attitude and the attitude of the program, that it'll never be the same, but it'll still be awesome. And that kind of goes back to what I was mentioning about like your spinal cord recovery, is that like nobody fully recovers, but everybody gets better. You're never as bad as you were when you first got into the hospital. So that's kind of the same situation with High Fives, is that they have built a community that fosters progression and growth within the disabled community.
Mm-hmm. And it's also important to point out that you don't have to be an athlete to participate in your program or in the High Fives Foundation. They all walks of life, right? All different disabled. You don't have to be an athlete.
Right. You don't have to consider yourself like a previous athlete if you don't want to. But once you're with us, we call you an athlete because it ultimately does take some physicality to participate in what we're doing. I mean, there's nothing mild about going out on a trip with us.
Yes. Have you done adaptive skiing since?
Yep. I've had a handful of opportunities to go out and do some adaptive skiing, and it's really cool to be back on the lift and on the mountain with friends.
Fantastic. So another cool thing that I see about your foundation and organization is that they provide education. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The Return to Dirt level of education,
or High Fives Foundation, as far as like injury prevention, awareness, safety?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's, I guess, multiple parts of the High Fives mission, but one of them is the education and trying to prevent life-altering injuries before they happen. So we have the basics program that is a yearly educational program that covers how to, basically be safe while being extreme at the same time, avalanche awareness and then just safety on the mountain in general.
Yes. I was reading a little bit about it, focusing on things like decision making. You might not be able to like prevent everything, but just looking at, what is possible high risk situations and just, trying to lower your risk from a spinal cord injury.
Yeah, it's important to teach judgment. When I was a young ripper, learning from coaches and other peers, when you're on the mountain, there's a lot of value to be had in knowing your skill level and then also pushing that level. I mean, we wouldn't ever want anybody to not try hard or go fast or go big. That's the soul of the sport, but there's an appropriate way to do it. And I mean, it's as simple as like wearing a helmet is an important thing. And, that's one of the slogans within the High Fives Basics program, is that helmets are cool. And that's one of the things where, like, even though you're out there sending and you still could get hurt, you're wearing a helmet, you're wearing the safety padding, and you're considering your level of risk, and you have the practice ahead of time, and you've put in the time on doing dry land and spending time on trampolines and in foam pits before you're going out and just like hucking your meat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So where do you see your organization Return to Dirt in 5 years or 10 years from now?
Man, I hope to see us just be able to grow the community of dirt enthusiasts, I guess, would be the ultimate, because it's not immediately obvious to people when they're dealing with any sort of mobility impairment that they could have an opportunity like this. Also, I don't even know that most people would consider the adapted UTV as being this freeing and like potentially serene experience. That's maybe something that I've even discovered throughout running this program, is that it's not just like brash throttle motor stuff. It goes a lot further than that, because you do get to build relationships with the people that you're out there with, and that's a really special part of the program. And then you're also you stop and you have lunch in some remote meadow, and that's a special thing that isn't really seen in the pictures and videos, because that's not as hype, but
Mm-hmm.
that's a significantly enjoyable aspect of what we're doing.
Most definitely. And I really hope that the word gets out about your organization, that when somebody encounters a spinal injury, that they hear about your program, like while they're still in the hospital. I hope hospitals have flyers of information. I hope you get lots of donation and money, because it's a life-changing event, and your organization is definitely providing a silver lining to the challenges that it takes place. But I love that you also address like the community building, bringing in the nature and the healing effects of nature. So I think your organization will grow in lots of ways in the coming years.
I hope so. Yeah. And I mean, Craig Hospital has been great and partnered with the High Fives Foundation on so many different projects now, that like when somebody shows up at Craig and they, exhibit the high fives attitude, high fives positive attitude, somebody tells them. And honestly, somebody tells them, and at the same time, somebody's telling the High Fives Foundation that you need to go check this person out and introduce the program to them. So it does happen, but it needs to go even further.
Yes, yes. Nobody should feel alone in this situation. So I'm glad you guys exist. So we're getting here toward the end of our conversation. Do you have any like final thoughts that you would like to share with the audience with regards to Return to Dirt?
Yeah, I would say that if you have the interest and the time to explore our program and what we're up to, have at it. Love to hear about some more enthusiasm, and share it around as much as possible, because this is sort of a fringe thing that you wouldn't know about unless somebody introduces you to it. And so we want to go about it brick by brick, and make one friend every day that will share what we're up to, and hopefully just garner more support.
Fantastic. Well, Tim, thank you so much for coming on my channel. Thank you for making a difference in a lot of people's lives. You don't know the impacts that you're truly having. Maybe you do know. And I hope that people reach out to you. I'm going to be putting your website down in the description box below. And I wish you great success with your organization.
Thanks so much. This has been fun. This is an enjoyable thing to do.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment down below or a question. Maybe Tim will hop on there and answer it. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be alerted to when the next video drops. Thanks for watching.